Thought Media Network proudly presents It's All Love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern. With Laura Mock, Maria Hartman, Wendy Ann, and Lara Brzezinski. It's All Love, a space where we open into the heart, tap into the soul's deep wisdom, and enter into the energy of love, truth, presence, and joy. It's All Love, Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 6 p.m. Eastern.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
From the New Thought Media Network, this is the Conscious Reality Show with your host, Sara Stevens Nichols, where conversation plus intention reveals a new reality. Every week, Sara and her guests will discuss what they know and what they don't. Experimenting in front of everyone with what else is possible. I'm Sunny Childs, and here is your host, Sara Stevens Nichols.
Thank you, Sunny. So glad to be here and so glad to see everybody today. Wonderful to be back talking to you and reconnecting in conscious reality. This is the Conscious Reality Show. I'm Sara Stevens Nichols, and conscious reality means rather than just accepting the way it seems to be as the permanent possibility, we have an actual choice. We have a choice in what reality we experience. And one of the ways in which people alter their reality and alter their choices is through addiction. And another way is through recovery. And so today is actually going to be the start of a series that we're doing where we look at different kinds of recovery and how they have affected people's lives, and talk to the actual people who are in recovery from that addiction. And the first one that we're going to look at today is workaholism. Now, workaholism, a lot of people think of it as a joke. You know, oh, I'm a workaholic, people will say, right? But it's a real disease. It's a real addiction. Workaholism is a real addiction. And in fact, there are even people who, in Japanese, they have a word for death by workaholism or by overworking called karoshi, which is they can't exactly diagnose that that's what killed you, but it's a thing. It's a known thing that heart stress and extreme stress can kill the body, and that's acknowledged in Japan, and it's starting to be acknowledged in American medicine more and more. So, because workaholism is a thing, it turns out there's also a 12-step fellowship. Many of you have probably heard of the 12-step fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, there are many such fellowships for different forms of addiction in the world and in every part of the world at this point. And one of those is Workaholics Anonymous, another 12-step fellowship that actually treats workaholism or allows people to recover from it using the principles of recovery that were pioneered by Alcoholics Anonymous. So today, we're actually going to be meeting with folks that are here that are members of Workaholics Anonymous and that are able to actually tell us what it's like to be a workaholic, why they got into Workaholics Anonymous, and what Workaholics Anonymous has done for their life. Here on the screen here, you can see some questions that are available. There's many more such questions, I think 20 on the Workaholics Anonymous website, which you can access through the QR code there. There are these questions. Are you more drawn to work or activity than close relationships, etc.? Have your long hours caused injury to your health or relationships? Do you feel like a slave to your email, texts, or other technology? If you're answering yes to these or to the other 17 or so questions that are on the Workaholics Anonymous website, then you may be a workaholic and you may be interested in what these people have to say. You may also know someone whose working concerns you, and you may want to tell them about Workaholics Anonymous or know more about it for yourself if you are living with one or love somebody who this makes you think of. So without further ado, we're going to go to the folks that really know about this. We have 3 or 4 workaholics in the room right now, and let's meet them and hear more about recovery from workaholism from the people who really know. So I'm going to bring on Hayes and Lolo and Scooter right now. And welcome to the Conscious Reality Show. Unlike other previous episodes, these 3 guests are not showing their faces and are presenting to us using assumed names for this purpose, and that's in order to preserve their anonymity. Workaholics Anonymous is an anonymous program, and therefore it is part of anonymity when people are at the level of media to keep that. So that we're attempting to do that, and I'm going to attempt to add another workaholic who has just re-entered the room, and that is M. Welcome, M.
Thank you.
Scooter, my understanding is Workaholics Anonymous starts with, as a spiritual program, often starts meetings with the Serenity Prayer. So can you please let us get us started with that?
Yeah, we'll do the we form of the Serenity Prayer. Higher power, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and
the
wisdom
wisdom to
know the difference.
Thank you. So up on the screen are some of the characteristics of workaholics. This is from the literature. I got this from the Workaholics Anonymous website, which we will show you down at the bottom there. You can see the web address if you want to go to it at any time. And I am going to call on what I understand to be the reverse order of time and program. Hayes being the person who has been in this program for the least amount of time. Hayes, will you please read these characteristics for everyone?
Yes, thank you. 1, it is very difficult for us to relax. We often, if not always, perceive the need to get just a few more tasks done before we can allow ourselves to feel good and take a break. When we complete our list, however, we just seem to find more to do. These uncontrollable desires often result in frantic multitasking and accompanying fragmented attention. We operate out of the mini crisis mode as an escape from our core issues. Our inability to pace ourselves leads us to breakdown and burnout as we rob ourselves of the enjoyment of conclusion and rest. 2, many of us grew up in chaotic homes where the stress and intensity of an adrenaline high was normal. So we seek out similar workplace or create crisis where none exist because it feels familiar and comfortable. With no issues to resolve, we suffer withdrawal, becoming anxious and depressed. Such mood swings destroy our peace of mind. 3, we have an obsessive desire to make sense of everything in our lives, including our every thought and feeling. We cannot allow ourselves to experience things over which we cannot maintain a sense of control. We have an underlying fear that if we surrender and allow our emotions to surface, we will become raving lunatics for the rest of our lives. 4, we are so used to doing what is expected of us that we are often unable to know what it is that we really want and need to do for ourselves. We often betray ourselves by giving into the demands of people whom we perceive as being, quote, in authority, end quote.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hayes. So, Hayes, do you have any of these that jump out at you that you want to comment on, or that kind of spur you to remember why you got into these rooms?
Well, I got to tell you that they all hit me like a 10-ton brick when I got to Workaholics Anonymous in 2020. Each one of them has something that was totally part of my story. But I remember feeling like number 3 really jumped out at me because I was so wrapped up in that obsessive desire to make sense of everything and every thought and feeling. And that's still to this day, I have to catch myself not to get sucked into this obsessive thinking about how and what I can control, where I can control, because really what recovery has taught me is I can't control my job. I can't control my coworkers. I can barely control myself. So I just need to let go of those old ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about you, Em? Any thoughts on those? I can put them back up if you want to look at them.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks everyone for being here. To me, I love these descriptions. The kind of chaotic home element certainly resonates for me and is something I've been sitting with the last few years in my own recovery journey. The sense that that my home, well, at least what I was around, that there was a lot of high activity and like what in hindsight looks like almost creating activity and intensity around small decisions, or perpetually being late for things. Whatever it was, it feels like the system was sort of wired to create a high level of, or a baseline level of sort of anxiety and uncertainty. So that to some extent, along with other forms of maybe more extreme trauma, that kind of baseline level of I should stay worried about something all the time and find something to be worried about, feels like I got that early, but then carried on and that continue to play around with that and create that in new ways as an adult.
Right. And what are some of those new ways?
As an adult today, well, work, I would say, was the central one for me. I have other compulsive and addictive areas, I like the way you sort of framed addiction as one tool we have for changing our reality. So work for me would have been, until the last few years is different, but for most of my life would have been the core way I did that. And so work for me would have started probably about high school, 11 or 12. I just decided I need to be good at everything and win at everything in certain domains. And that started in, for me around 11 or 12 with a bunch of things to do with school, focusing on workaholism here, but there's another track that got really obsessed with body image and other things, but focusing on work, joining a bunch of clubs, trying to get A's in everything. And kind of that spirit of trying to get A's in everything, I then carried into a career of fairly high intensity jobs, or jobs that I chose to do in a very high intensity way, whether or not they were high intensity jobs, which I'm happy to go into the details of what that looked like now or later, but long hours, overcommitting, and working, also choosing to work for people that had very limited boundaries and had very high expectations of me, that I was, I needed that. I needed those expectations so that I constantly felt like I had to be doing something, as opposed to resting and relaxing and dealing with whatever else was going on underneath.
Thank you. Hayes, you want to get in on, or Lolo, actually, do you want to get in on this? Do you need to see those characteristics on the screen again? Happy to put them back. Can't hear you. All right. We'll go over to, maybe Lolo's having technical difficulties. We'll go over to Scooter. Would you like to see those characteristics again, or do you have any comments on what's been shared so far, or thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful to be here. I really do appreciate the connection and these first characteristics with chaos and the connection between, for me and my disease. I've been in the room since 97, but before that, what brought me here was definitely about stress and crisis. And one of the things to notice about that is, I think as a practicing workaholic, I was not necessarily aware. Like these descriptions are things I was not really conscious or necessarily aware of. And in fact, I didn't realize how bad it had gotten, kind of, until other systems in my life, other things gave me the feedback that I needed to change. I lost some.
Wait, Scooter, you're saying you didn't notice that those were your characteristics. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I think that's one of the gifts of recovery, is actually coming into awareness, coming into increasingly painful awareness. In the program, we think about that as kind of a step one. The first step is about really coming to understand our unmanageability, which we might not have been aware of. And I think that's important. If I think about, that's one of the gifts of recovery, is coming to greater awareness, and then that being able to bring greater resources to bear, including the insights of others in the program and their experiences, and what transformations have happened in their life, has been a life-giving move. That awareness, that consciousness, which is, I feel like it's ongoing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I didn't, maybe on the next round, folks can say how long they have been coming to Workaholics Anonymous, if they're comfortable. Lolo, it sounds like you have sound now. Would you like to comment on anything that's been shared or add something? Normally, my understanding is that normally in Workaholics Anonymous, they don't comment on each other's shares, but this is a little different because we are we're in a interview.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me now, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I was having some technology issues with my audio. Yeah, the characteristics hit me and definitely echo some of what's already been said. One of the things I wanted to say is that I do think I was born with a predilection to being a workaholic. Someone else in my same chaotic family might have taken a different adaptation to survive it, but that control is so important to me. When I was a kid, the chaos was so bad. I used to sit in the back of our car when we were driving somewhere that we went like once a year, and my parents were arguing in the front seat. And I would say, it's exit 42. We take exit. And I remembered that every year because I couldn't deal with the chaos. Like, I really developed some strong adaptations, and it helped. My parents encouraged it. You know, they were so chaotic. They were willing to let their child take that role. But one thing I wanted to say about recovery, it's very difficult for us to relax. That was for sure true when I first came in, but it is not true now, thanks to recovery.
Nice.
Relaxation goes on my to-do list. I feel like a rich person if I can take time to just lie on the couch in the sun in the afternoon, or to sit outside on a bench in the sun and do nothing. That to me is the height of luxury. And I look for those opportunities. I take frequent breaks during the day and do completely useless things during my breaks. I watch cat videos. I read a silly book. I do, listen to music. And that was not part of my life before recovery. I was a very inefficient worker, but I worked all the time. It just permeated my life. It was like this fog, this miasma that expanded to fill my entire life, all my time. And that's not
Lola, that's an interesting thing. I was an inefficient worker, but I worked all the time. I think a lot of people think of workaholics as the best employee, somebody everybody would want to have working for them. It doesn't sound like in your case that was true.
It's never true. I'm sorry. I think that's complete. This is my very personal opinion, but I think that's complete BS. I will sometimes see job ads that say, we want a workaholic. And I'm like, no, you don't. Because when I'm in my cups, I am a pain in the neck to work with. I need everybody's approval. I am constantly churning because I'm so anxious. I drag other people into my craziness. And blame them when things don't go my way. I'm an emotional mess, and I'm not organized. I'm not thinking ahead. And I had the opportunity in earlier recovery to practice this in a workplace where there were other people around doing different things. And I became known as one of the most productive workers because I had an abstinence requirement because of WA. And when someone gave me a project, I didn't just run at it with my arms flailing, but I thought, okay, how can I get this done in the available time? Who can I get to help me? What vendor can I outsource part of it to? And because of that, I was really productive. I got a lot done. And I didn't work a lot of overtime. Like some of my there was one of the people in my office, there was this thing, like one of my colleagues, oh, she worked overnight. Oh, like that was some big badge of something. And I was like, you shouldn't pay me double time in the middle of the night because I'm worth, less than half time. I would be a useless worker in the middle of the night. So I don't think workaholism makes people good workers. I think recovery from workaholism definitely has in my case.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I noticed that you all extracted a lot from those 4 characteristics. So let's just see what else comes as we look at the other readings that you have.
May I make a comment about something that Lalo just said?
Sure.
So real briefly. So right now there seems to be a trend in the media of advertising 996 for job applications, and that people in the tech sector, particularly in California Bay Area, are encouraging with job descriptions of, oh, we expect you to work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. And that's being touted again as being, a work ethic that just really, I would say, has proven to not be healthy. Just ties everything into what was just said. So I just had to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wrote a comment for online. 996 may be sick. That's what I heard from what you said. Oh, that just sounds insane, working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and 6 days a week. That does not sound sustainable to me now in my life. I put some new of your characteristics on there, another page of them. Let's make it so it's easier to see, is anything on let's see, who can read that? Let's ask M, can you read those for us?
Yes, I can. Characteristics of workaholics. Number 7, when we do judge ourselves, we generally look only to our tangible accomplishments, believing that we must always be in the process of achieving something worthwhile. In order to feel good about ourselves, we find it hard to love and accept ourselves otherwise. Our work has become an identity and a means for justifying our existence. Should I read all of them?
Sure, unless you just want to talk about that.
No, I can read through them. We have the illusion that people will not respect us unless we appear more competent than we actually are in reality. When praised by others, we often tend to discount ourselves as unworthy of such affirmation. We tend to schedule ourselves for more than we can handle, striving to do more and do it faster. We are often dishonest about our past experiences and present capabilities, tending to avoid mentioning our failures and to exaggerate our successes. We think that looking busy will make people think that we are important and garner their admiration. Number 9, we are perfectionistic. We do not accept mistakes as part of being human. And we find it hard to ask for help. Because we believe no one can meet our standards and that we are indispensable, we have difficulty delegating and end up doing more than our share. Our unrealistic expectations often cheat us of contentment. We are not aware of any difference between job-imposed and self-imposed pressure. Number 10, we tend to be too serious and overly responsible. All activity must be goal-oriented. We feel guilty and restless when we are doing something productive. When not doing something productive. We feel guilty and restless when not doing something productive. Because we often work at our play, we rarely experience such activities as recreational. We neglect our sense of humor, failing to enjoy the healing power of laughter.
Great. And let's just start with you, M. Anything that jumped out at you while you were reading it you want to comment on?
Oh, there's a lot here. For me, I think I'll say 2 things just to engage briefly in a conversation from before. I ran a company for a number of years, and I hired a lot of workaholics during that time. And, the nature of that industry I was in made it such that, I would identify as a workaholic who worked long hours and got a ton productively done. And I found other people like that, and I have a lot of feelings around that now. But I do think that these traits that we have on this page, the two things that really, well, one thing I'll just focus that really jump out to me is this sense of like over responsible in number 10, and feeling restless when not doing something quote unquote productive. That is such, I would say that is one of the really miraculous healing journeys that has been given to me through recovery, the process of recovery, in Workaholics Anonymous and in, therapy and other modalities, is the ability to value pleasure for pleasure's sake, to do things because they feel good, and to have time each day, each week, to really give myself permission to rest and play. So that was not something I was trained to know how to do in how I was socialized, and something that have been learning and have learned and continue to learn about as an adult.
Thank you, Em. We are actually now going to go to short station identification for the New Thought Media Network that hosts this show, and then we'll come back with more. And we'll go to Lolo to comment after this.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.
Welcome back, everybody. And if you're just joining us, notice that we are talking with members of Workaholics Anonymous today and learning more about this disease of workaholism and recovery from them. And we're looking at the characteristics of workaholics now. And I'm calling on Lolo to see if Lola would like to comment.
Sure. I want to start with a too serious, because when I'm in, what I call in my cups, in my workaholism, when I'm acting out, I am very serious. I don't laugh. And it's sad because I'm a person who loves to laugh. I love watching comedies. I love watching comedians, anything that makes me laugh. But I really lost that in the depths of my workaholism. And just to get into some inner child psychologizing, it's as if I took the part of me that likes to play, that's like a little kid. And I really am like a little kid. I will watch every animated kid movie that comes out. I love them. Give me some physical comedy and I'm really happy. I watch the Three Stooges knocking each other over and think that's hysterical. But it's like I took that little kid and I locked her in a closet and she said, I want out. I want to go do fun things. And I'm like, no, you can't until we get this work done, as if I was the worst parent in the world. So, and when I am in the worst place in my workaholism, everything feels like a chore. Oh, I have to go to the movies. Ugh. It's one more thing to do, as opposed to, oh boy, I get to go to the movies. When I have the margin and time, then anything could be fun. Oh, I get to go, do a chore. I get to, cook food for the week. Great. It's going to take me time, but I will enjoy it because I'm not rushing from that to the next thing, because I have margins around things. And I want to say that the perfectionist thing is funny because I was at one of the WA conferences once, and I went to a workshop on perfectionism, and I came out and ran into my sponsor. And a sponsor is someone who helps you work the steps of the 12 steps of workaholics.
Okay. I was just going to ask.
Yeah. And my sponsor, I said to my sponsor, you know what? I think I'm a perfectionist. And she laughed at me. She said, of course you're a perfectionist. You didn't know that? And I said, what? I'm so imperfect. How could I be a perfectionist? I do everything wrong. Well, that's obviously what a perfectionist is. And I did not know it. So learn. And can I just make one comment on the questions that you had up at the beginning, the how to know if you're a workaholic. And I just want to, I came in before technology was a problem. I came in 1999. There were no cell phones. I didn't have an internet, that wasn't around. But what I really hook on in the ones that you put up there, I mean, I said yes to most of the questions when I came in, but have your long hours caused injury to your health or relationships? And the answer for me was yes to both. I was working my work was very physical. I had a business that involved a lot of physical work, and the way I was working was hurting my body. And I was having relationship problems, and I knew my work, there were a lot of factors in that, but my workaholism was a big one. My wife felt really abandoned by me.
I have to assume that a lot of the people who get into Workaholics Anonymous, it's more their partner or family member that is worried about it than they sometimes.
Could that be true? It is not uncommon for someone to come in because their partner has given them an ultimatum or left them separated. Occasionally we will get partners at the meeting saying, I think my partner is a workaholic, but they won't come to this meeting. They're still working, but I'm worried about them and I wanted to find out about it. Problems with relationships are very, very, very common in this. And I want to say, I am still a workaholic. I still need this program. Just right now, my shoulder hurts and I want to push through it and just tell my body to shut up and go away. But I'm learning to stop and respect my body and ask it what it needs and not just keep pushing through. So
that's great. I bet there are people who are watching this that are or listening and just going, oh, wow, I don't think I'm a workaholic, but I'm not that good at listening to my body. So maybe this would help me anyway, right? So those could be true. Scooter, what do you think about any of it?
I definitely, one thing that really animates for me around that second list also was and what Lola was saying was about spontaneous joy and spontaneous fun. And I think one of the ravages of the disease is the loss of, I didn't even, when I came into WA, I didn't even know what I enjoyed because I had been just doing a lot of stuff for a long time and I hadn't been being. And so that for me has been a powerful move to learn more about how to, WA has one of the gifts of the program for me is a set of tools, including under-scheduling, substituting, and living in the now. And by kind of being willing to do a commitment moratorium, surrender to a commitment moratorium, log what my commitments were, have a moratorium on adding new ones, and then reducing how much I was doing until there was spaciousness. Then in what happens in the spaciousness, right? When if through step work, I'm relieved bit by bit of just this kind of worrying gerbil wheel of, the next thing, thing. Then what opens up is this ability to access joy and fun and experiment and play and know and find out more about what that might be like. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And was there something else, research that you were going to tell us about?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, kind of connecting the dots back to the fact that there's research that Brian Robinson has done that's expressed in most recently in his book Chained to the Desk. And Brian Robinson researched nurses and people in the helping professions a lot. And what that research showed was that many of those folks who were very workaholic in the caring professions, for example, had been experienced where their parents were not necessarily able to show up as parents. And so the children step forward in what that the term for that in that field is parentification. So the children step forward and try to take care of the parents, which is just a most natural extension of love that the child has towards the parents, and because it's not happening. But then that learning, that move of being over responsible, taking care of things, trying to juggle becomes a pattern that is an adaptation early on that becomes kind of a death march in some ways, because if we are still functioning, and I relate to this personally, if we're still functioning out of the capacities of a 3-year-old or a 5-year-old trying to step forward into a adult body, there's this kind of mad scrambling. That's, I think, where some of that mad scrambling and chaos comes from. And then there's a kind of, what we in WA we say it's a twofold addiction. There's the process addiction and the kind of chemical addiction. It's like we've learned to mainline our own stress hormones, and it becomes very numbing, soothingly numbing to stay in that stress mode. And also the part of us that maybe feels confirmed or like we're important or we're contributing in some way, and the chemistry around that, and how to get free of that. It takes a lot of connection and a kind of the pathways offered by other people lifting us up and sharing their experience, strength, and hope. I think that's part of the power of WA, to help break those old patterns and open us up into spaciousness and a different mode of being.
Yeah. Amazing. Wow. So you're not just addicted to workaholism, when you're not just addicted to working all the time, you're addicted to the actual chemicals that come from what, stress or?
Yeah, and I don't know all the names of it.
You're not
the
an expert.
cortisol,
Yeah.
the stress cycle, and the neurochemistry of it. Now they're getting into too. It is what happens. One of the characteristics described this is that there's kind of a twofold mode. One mode is I'm acting, I'm doing, I'm being, and I'm buzzing from thing to thing. And there's a high that happens, that kind of adrenaline high, or being adrenalized, we talk about in program. And so I'm just buzzing along. And I've definitely met many people who were newcomers in WA who said, oh, I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I'm not an adrenaline addict. I don't relate to that. And then later on, after a while, once they come down off it, they're like, oh my gosh, I was on adrenaline all the time. I was just, and some people come in because they've hit a bottom, because they've used up the body's, capacity for, running on fight or flight for so long. And then there's also the crash cycle that workaholics can get into after a bender or a binge, where the body just crashes out and gets so depleted. And then after resting, though, then the workaholic without another pathway will just go back into the binge cycle too. Yeah.
Yay. That sounds really hard. How about we move on to, since we got a lot of thoughts out of the characteristics, the affirmations for workaholics, or we could even go to the promises. But I think we have time for some of these. Let's see. It would be Lolo, if you would like to read those.
Sure. Affirmations for workaholics. The slower I go, the faster I grow. The more I play, the more my higher power works. I have time to spare and time to share. Time is my friend. When I take time, I make time. I refuse to rush. My life is full, yet underscheduled.
So anything there that you want that jumps out at you is something you haven't had a chance to comment on?
Definitely, one of the things I've learned when I was in early recovery, I had this image that what recovery was me walking, but my addiction was me walking down the street, and every few feet I would stick my own foot out and trip myself. And all I had to do to get recovery was stop tripping myself. And I feel like that when I get out of the way and let my higher power in, then good things happen. When I'm trying to control outcomes and trying to make things happen, then things just don't go the way I want. And when I have that spaciousness that I get from going slow, from playing, letting myself have time to play, I do get more time for growth. I'm still working on the time is my friend thing. I just did a workshop on that. Trying to make friends with time. That's definitely an area for growth for me. Definitely working that had some breakthroughs on that just in the last few weeks, because I think I have what somebody in the program calls time blindness. I'm like, yes, I can leave my house at 9 o'clock and be somewhere 10 minutes away, also at 9 o'clock. Like, I can teleport myself. So it's a work in progress, but so much better. My friends used to tell me that we were going to meet at 5 if we were meeting at 5:30 because they knew I'd be half an hour late. And thanks to the program, they don't do that anymore. The first time I showed up at 5, they were shocked. They were like, wait, we weren't expecting you. So
I bet we all know someone like that.
Yeah, it's been helpful. And Sara, do we have time for me to say one thing about adrenaline? I don't want to take time from people. I just want to say, I want to jump on what Scooter said about adrenaline, that I think adrenaline addiction is one of the under-recognized parts of WA. It took me a long time to get it because it was the soup I swam in. I didn't know the difference. And I will say it's very addictive. I love adrenaline. I feel like the king of the world and I can do anything and I'm smarter than everyone when I'm high on adrenaline. But it's also, I can't sleep. It's enervating. And I'm glad to be off it now and glad to recognize when I start to ramp up and stop before I get so ramped up, I can't come back down. But AA says that alcoholism is an addiction of the body, like it's an allergy of the body. And I can't drink caffeine because my body overreacts to it. And I think I have an allergy of the body to adrenaline. Like, it just hooks into something for me. So I think that is definitely a core part of my workaholism.
I wonder if sometimes people develop other addictions just trying to find, like alcoholism, just in order to calm down the system.
Yes. Yeah. For me, I used food. In order to be able to sleep, I would stock up on carbs and sugars, which made me very sleepy in the evening to come down. And I did a lot of things other than work to fuel that adrenaline cycle. Undersleeping fuels it, not eating, sort of starving my body, all of that. Then I'm running on adrenaline because I don't have the fuel I need. And so part of my recovery is to really prioritize sleep, prioritize eating regular meals, prioritize all the normal self-care things that I wasn't doing so that I could feed that adrenaline. I could stoke it. It's hard. It's hard. The pusher's in my own head. It's not like I can walk away from my adrenaline pusher, my dealer.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Thank you so much, Lolo. What about you, Hayes, on these affirmations? Anything that, and you're muted, so I'm going to unmute you. Oh, yeah, you need to unmute you. Okay.
Well, I would say that recently I've been really trying to practice the slower I go, the faster I grow, simply because I catch myself, talking really fast, trying to get my thoughts out there, because I'd always had this fear that there was, as it talks about in our promises, that there was never going to be enough time, money, and love. And that was one of my biggest fears that I brought to WA. And so when I realized intellectually, because it took me a little while that I was adrenalizing the way I spoke, the way I walked, the way I acted, the way I worked, that it was because I didn't have faith in being in the here and now, and that I was always constantly rushing into the future, but future never comes. And so I was bypassing what was happening here and now. So today I try to be conscientious about staying present, not rushing what I talk when I talk, being, and just trying to be a little more methodical. When, going back to the whole, being addicted to adrenaline. When I first got to WA, I intellectually understood that I was probably addicted to adrenaline, but it wasn't until I had about 6 months in the program where I experienced my first real major flight or fight response. And I had this massive rush of adrenaline that came through my body. I almost wanted to puke. And I'd realized as I was coming down away from that scenario, because my body was perceiving a life or death situation that wasn't real, that I had been numbing myself out for so many decades that I could not physically experience flight or fight as a quote unquote normal human being might. And that was my proof that I was addicted to adrenaline. It had no longer been just a thing in my head, but it had dropped down to my heart going, oh, wow, I really am addicted to this. Also prior to WA, I came through the back door of a different 12-step program. And before I got to that 12-step program, I used out external chemicals to keep working around the clock. Prior to WA, I once went 4 straight months working 2 full-time jobs. That's insane. And yet I couldn't see that. So
you couldn't even see the insanity of that,
nope.
You're saying?
No, to me,
Wow.
that was very, very
amazing.
normal. To me, that was my normal, because that was also the industry I chose to go into. And I was bound and determined to get my way and be quote unquote successful. And it almost killed me.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. I'm talking with members of Workaholics Anonymous, and I'm loving these affirmations: the slower I go, the faster I grow, et cetera, that are on the screen. The more I play, the more my higher power works. Because they really sound like it's definitely in line with the conscious reality show, because they're crazy, right? That doesn't make any sense. The slower I go, the faster I grow. Yet you all are telling me that that's your actual experience, that you're able to use a tool such as slowing down or saying this affirmation, and then your growth increases and it is worth it. I I think most people think of time, and I'm actually kind of curious about commenting on this, but as very finite, right? It's always going to go the same way. There's X amount of hours in a day, there's X amount of hours in a week, and therefore nothing can really change our experience of time. Yet most of us actually have had the experience of the clock standing still when we're focused on something we really love or something like that. So it interests me that as you recover, you're learning more. I'm just going to play some of these other affirmations on the screen as we're coming towards the end of our show. The less I struggle, the more I'm open to inspiration. I love that. I'm entitled to my right work. I live by divine appointment. I don't even know what that means, but it does sound good and does sound like what I try to do. Look at all those beautiful affirmations for workaholics. Let's get to the promises. This is supposedly what you're here for. I understand that eventually this is what it starts to look like. We've heard something about adrenaline losing its hold on people, and some of these other ones. Scooter, would you like to read this screen or the previous one and talk to us about that?
Yeah, here's promises 5 through 9. We learn to play and have fun together. We repair broken relationships and build new ones. Health and self-nurturance return, and self-seeking and ego inflation do not drive our decisions. Yeah, I think something that jumps out at me from this that's related, a strand that we've been exploring today has to do with also relational healing. Like often, I know for me in my workaholism, I became very isolated because my primary relationship was with my job, with my work, with my activities. And I often was not very present, even if I was physically with people. There was all this churn going on in my mind. And also, I would blow people off a lot because things would come up at work and it would just be more enticing and more adrenalizing. So, in recovery, this idea of repair and restoration is very central in 12-step recovery and in workaholism recovery. And I definitely relate to the step work in particular has been like a doorway helping me bring to consciousness where I have caused harm by my absence and my behaviors, or my taking on too much, or people pleasing, all the different patterns. And it's actually a kind of a spiritual technology for opening up other possibilities and gaining consciousness and awareness for me of my patterns. And then as a result of that,
what's the spiritual technology?
Oh, the 12 steps. The 12 steps are kind of this step-by-step process for inventorying times when I was able to show up and be present and bring and also the times when I wasn't and when I caused harm. And then the process of coming to really get a lot of clarity about what those relational ruptures and damage and harm was, and then what was going on in me about that. How was I actually contributing to that? And then what else was possible, and what else could open up when I wasn't locked into the disease. And then further on in the steps, there's a process of repair and amending my behavior so that I can show up in a different way. And that's really related to this promise number 6 about repairing broken relationships, including with myself. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Can we read those? We haven't heard from you for a minute. Would you like to read that final part of the promises?
Yeah, happy to. 9, we lose interest in selfish things. We gain interest and compassion for our partners, families, friends, and coworkers. 10, we experience how well the program helps us to handle problems that used to confuse and defeat us. 11, we ask for help and reach out to help others. 12, we find that a higher power helps us in a way that self-reliance never could. Should I read the outro here?
Sure.
Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are already happening in the lives of many among us. For those who are new to our fellowship, there are no problems that you have experienced that are not common to us. We welcome you with the deepest respect. When we apply this program with honesty and compassion, a place of surrender grows in us one day at a time.
Thank you very much for that. We are going to close with that and then get off the air so that the 5 of us can talk more. Please, if you're watching this and you know someone who's troubled with workaholism, maybe consider sending it to them or giving them the opportunity to see it. And if you are troubled by workaholism, then you know how to reach it. There's this World Wide Web, and you can reach Workaholics Anonymous. I'm scrolling back inartfully to the place where you can get on the QR code. Oh, I'm too clever by half. Well, it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Actually, there were some closing things I wanted to say. Here they are. There's all the promises. there's that QR code that you can get to the Workaholics Anonymous website. And our next 12-step group that we're going to look at is Overeaters Anonymous. And there's the QR code for the OA website. Do you eat when you're not hungry or not eat when your body needs nourishment? Do you go on eating binges for no apparent reason? Do you have feelings of guilt, shame, or embarrassment about your weight or the way you eat? You can go to oa.org to answer those questions and others to see if you might qualify for that. And that will be our next show. Reminder that it's not too late. There's only, 3 sessions left, but there's every month I have a Heal Thyself session on the 3rd Tuesday, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, this month. And who knows what it is? You know when the 3rd Tuesday is. It's only happening in 2025, though. So if you're watching this in 2026, it's too late. Come to that and you can hang out with me, and we work on healing tools for using spiritual tools to heal the body. And it's a great group, and we really have miracles happen. And you can subscribe to my newsletter on Substack there, and subscribe to the Conscious Reality Show on YouTube at Conscious Reality Show. And let's finish the show here. But I could never find our end.
Thanks to our guest, to host Sara Stevens Nichols, and to the New Thought Media Network. I'm Sunny Childs, producer of the Conscious Reality Show. Join us live next Wednesday at 9 a.m. or stream the show at your convenience. Subscribe to Conscious Reality Show YouTube channel so you never miss a show. If you'd like to learn more about us, check out www.sarastevensnichols.com.